Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Jay, the visionary founder and chief marketing officer of Main Hookup. This groundbreaking beauty booking platform is revolutionizing the way women connect with trusted Afro hairstylists, offering a seamless and empowering solution for a historically underserved community. With over a decade of experience as a purpose driven marketing specialist, Jane has a remarkable talent for building businesses and products from the ground up. Her passion lies in creating innovative solutions that uplift and empower, and Main Hookup is a testament to her dedication. Jane's story is one of innovation, impact, and the power of purpose. Get ready to be inspired by her journey and the incredible work she's doing to transform lives through beauty, trust, and connection. Let's give a warm welcome to Jane.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being a part of this process because you've managed to power through 100 people so quickly. So it's really nice to be one of them.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful for each one of you that's showing up and ready to share your story, your insights to help other women. So, yes, thank you so much for being part of my journey and making this dream into a reality. So, let's start with what was the most challenging limiting belief you had to overcome, and how did breaking free from it help you reclaim your voice?
I think the most limiting belief is that you have to get everything right because you're not going to. um, I think there is a thing of not so much being perfect, but especially when you're running your own business and it is your baby and you obviously want it to work. There's an inevitable fact that not everything will run smoothly, but you're very conscious of the fact that you want it to work or you want to learn and figure out how it can be better. And so I feel like there is a big fear of making mistakes, especially like the big ones, and they're going to happen too. You're going to make little ones that are kind of like negligible and not that noticeable, and then you're going to make massive ones and be like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Um, but part of the process is making mistakes. You can't get better at what you do. You can't build a better business unless you make some mistakes along the way. Um, and I think when you embrace that part of you that's like, I'm fearful of messing this up, or I'm fearful of making a mistake, or even publicly making a mistake and something not working out, when you get past that and you're more focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve versus people's perception of you, when you kind of get past a lot of that, then it puts you in a position where you're like, actually, I'm just going to do what needs to be done to build this business, regardless of whether you're making or whatever mistakes come of that, and there'll be lots of wins with every mistake. There is a lesson that also help you get some massive wins in the future if you're paying attention. Because again, if you're wallowing, because that happens too, um, if you're wallowing in the fact that something has gone wrong and you're not paying attention to the lesson that can be gained from that, then you miss something that will help you in the future. So I do just think that when you have to be equipped and accept you're going to make mistakes, but then you also have to really pay attention when they happen and think, what did I learn from that and what can I apply next time to make sure that that doesn't happen again, or to make sure that we have a better outcome. So yeah, I would say that's the big one.
Can you share when someone's words or actions made you feel small and how you found the strength to rise above it?
Oh, someone's words or actions that made me feel small. I think this is something that happens to a lot of people, especially when they're starting at the very beginning. But it's when people don't necessarily take your business seriously, especially if it's an early stage company or an early stage technology company in particular, you have to put quite a bit of money in before you will naturally start to see things come out the other end. Um, so I think the probably the most hurtful thing is when you can sense in a conversation that somebody is not taking what you do seriously. And that can feel hurtful, especially maybe less so from strangers because, they don't know you. And more so when it's coming from people that you know or people that you're close to, or that you're familiar with, whether they're friends, family, old colleagues. So I think the most that can be really challenging. It can really hurt. But again, only you know what your mission is. And there will be people that understand that and see the vision very quickly, and there will be people that don't understand and may not see that until it actually comes into fruition and it is the big, wonderful thing that you want it to be. Um, so I think as somebody that is running their own business, my advice would be just don't try not to take it to heart because remember, only you are able to see the vision that your product, your service, your platform will create in the future. Um, and some people need evidence of that, and you're not always going to be in a position to provide that. So you just have to say, okay, they don't get it. And I will keep going, I will keep pushing, I'll keep creating. And then maybe there's no guarantee that they will, but maybe eventually they will. But for now, they're just one of those people that don't get it, and that's okay. Not everybody has to get it for you to be doing what you're doing.
I love it. I love the way you explained it. It's just amazing. What safety resources, spaces, or tools have most impacted your healing journey?
What resources? I am a part of a few communities. Um, and I feel like being in those communities has really helped me to get access to whether it be like people or resources or even into events that otherwise I wouldn't have known about. Um, I don't think that's the biggest thing for anybody. Like I said, anybody that's building, it can feel very stressful. At times it can feel lonely, especially when you keep encountering people that don't quite understand because it's not what they do. Most people will go out and work for another person versus working for themselves. So that's another thing all of its own. So if you have a community around you or several communities around you full of people who are doing something similar, i.e., building a product, building a service, working for themselves, that can help you in those moments of, oh, I don't know what to do, or oh, I feel stuck. Actually, I'd really love to start pushing into this area. How do I get there? Because then you have people to talk to. You have people to talk to who are either at the same place that you're at. You have people to talk to who may be a few steps ahead of you that can advise you like retrospectively. So I think it's just really important to surround yourself in some ways with people that are going through a similar journey so that they can help you in those moments that you feel stuck. Um, I watched a video the other day and I cannot remember the name of the guy that was being interviewed, but he is a music producer and he said the most powerful thing that you can do is build with other people around you because he was just like, you can pursue people like me, but I've kind of already got my people. And the people that I have were where you are right now. We were all coming up together and we weren't in positions of power, but we worked together. And now all of us are very much in that position that we dreamed of being in. But we weren't trying to like tap into those people that were already there. We were actually just building alongside each other and helped each other to grow and get into the positions that we're in right now. So it's not that you shouldn't want to speak to people like me, but actually you should be spending more of your time speaking to people that are in the same position that you're in. Um, and that was actually quite. If I can find the interview, I will send it to you so that people can see it as well. It was funny. But I think that's something that people don't necessarily think about as like tapping into the people that are kind of like right next to you, sideways. It's not always about trying to reach the people that are up there because they all have a limited time because they have so many people reaching out to them. Actually, if you're building alongside people, then you can support each other. Um, And as one person climbs up, they'll always help to bring the other group of people up behind them as well.
I really love the way you must please share me with that video with me. I would love to watch that. What was your first step from feeling silence to finding your voice, and how did that change your life?
Um, I think feeling silence is actually sometimes self-imposed. It can be like a combination of outside influences, but for a very long time, at least when I was growing up, I didn't feel very comfortable with telling people what I was thinking. I'm naturally quite quiet anyway, at least until I feel really comfortable. Um, and I realized kind of by the time I was in my early 20s, I was like, this doesn't really serve me to not say anything because I'm left feeling like, I don't know, unheard. Um, it also doesn't help other people. It doesn't serve me nor the other people around me for me to be quiet. So I've just gradually started being more open and honest with like either my thoughts or feelings. That has served me much more. It also allows people to better understand me, my perspective on my views on certain things. But I think there is a level of, there will only be a built up frustration if you do not choose to communicate what you're feeling. But I think where some people get it wrong is, oh, by being open and honest and myself, that will always lead to something positive. And that's not necessarily the truth because you can't control how other people respond. And the only thing that you can do is like say, be open, be honest, be kind when you're communicating a thought, a feeling, something that you hold dear and close to you. And then the rest is up to the other person, or the other people on the receiving end of it. So I think one of the things that allowed me to get over that was accepting that all I'm in control of, all I can be responsible for is my delivery. Beyond that, everything else is kind of to do with the other person, how they receive it. And it's also to remember that when you're having difficult conversations with people, bear in mind that it's hard for somebody to receive, you know, it's hard for people to be on the receiving end of something that's confronting. So don't expect an initial reaction to necessarily be positive. People will get defensive. They might get upset, but that doesn't mean they haven't heard you. That doesn't mean it hasn't landed. That just means their initial reaction is to defend themselves. They may go away, they may think about it and come back to you in a week, 2 weeks, a month, and be like, okay, I heard you, I just didn't like it at the time. And that's okay. I think we kind of in some ways live in a world now where people expect, because they're being open and honest, that is going to immediately lead to a positive outcome. And that's not necessarily what will happen. Sometimes it could be a bit messy in between, and then eventually it gets better. But the point is that be open, be honest, be kind.
Definitely. What's one powerful lesson you've learned about self-worth, and how do you carry it with you as you continue to grow and inspire others?
Oh, a powerful thing about self-worth. I would say, and this is something that somebody else said to me a very, very long time ago. So I train, I'm an athlete, and one of my old training partners said this to me years ago. And he said, we are all equal, but we are not the same. And I think carrying that, especially when you're walking into rooms where it feels like, oh, people are, like I said, they're a few steps ahead. They've been there, done it, one t-shirt, maybe they've built multiple businesses. It's very easy to make yourself small, because you may not feel like you have as much to give as other people do in that or in those particular rooms. But again, when you lead with, we are all equal, but we are not the same, I might not be in the same position, but I am equal. And that makes it much easier to walk into those rooms and be like, "Oh, okay, well, what can I learn from these people? And I may not be able to give back in the same way, but what can I give them, or what can I support them with, or how can I be helpful? Um, or I can just offer help, and then if they need me, then they can come to me." I think it's about saying those things to yourself, putting yourself in a position of, let's say, in a position of empowering yourself versus making yourself small. Um, and actually, it is much better to not be the smartest person in the room, because then you have the biggest opportunity to learn. So walk into those rooms with that thought of, it's okay that I'm not the most knowledgeable person. We are all equal, but we are not the same. And think about what can you actually do to help. And it might not be immediate, but it could be further down the line.
Definitely. If you could tell your 17-year-old self one thing, what would it be and why?
I am definitely an optimist, and my 17-year-old self was highly optimistic. Not to say that I'm not now. I think now I'm just a bit more measured in my optimism. But I would say to my 17-year-old self, the best things that you want are are going to be a challenge to get and to achieve. But actually, the difference between people that achieve those things and people that don't is often people give up, not because they're not capable, but because it's hard. Um, and there's a reason that it's hard. It's hard. 99% of people don't do the thing that you're trying to do. So it's hard for a reason. And that's okay. That's okay. All you have to do is be disciplined and be consistent and turn up, um, and take opportunities as they come, because not all opportunities stay for very long. And then you will be fine. Ups and downs will come, but if you are disciplined, if you are consistent, and if you stay on the path, it will all be fine. Because a lot of the time people stop, not because they're not talented enough, but because it's hard.
Definitely. It is yeah, it is definitely not an overnight success thing. It is really getting resilience. I said to my husband, I don't need to go and run around the lake to know what
Mhm.
resilience is. I can just be a business owner and I will know what resilience is, because it is not always easy. But when you are, like you said, disciplined and you're doing it over and over and you don't give up, yes, surely we're gonna fail. I am like, I can't wait for failure. Failure must come and go, because there's a lesson that needs to there's a lesson that I need to learn, and there is some more growth that have to come. But come on, failure. Let's just bring it, fail, and get it over so that we can move forward. But it did took me a while, because
Mhm.
the old version of me would just quit, because oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I succeed in life? But yeah,
Mm,
it is.
no, it's true.
How do you set boundaries to protect your energy and peace? And what have you learned from this practice?
Oh, okay, boundaries. I guess boundaries that I set are really dependent on the circumstance. So one that I do set is if I'm if it's like middle of working day, and like something's happened that's quite frustrating, whether it's been like a disagreement with somebody, or something has come up that's kind of taken me sideways, I put a pin in that. So, and I'll come back to it later, because I don't like I don't have time to be derailed in the middle of a day, because there's too many things to do. So if it's a conversation with somebody else and it's a conflict, I'll be like, hey, you know what? It's not that I don't care, but actually this will sideline me for my whole day. So can we come back to this? Or if it's something, like I said, that's taken me by surprise, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's deal with that. once you've gone through all of these other things. Um, because what I find is that when I get really deep into something, that's again, like I said, it can derail you, it can take up a lot of headspace, and there's often so much and so many things to do that I just don't have a huge amount of time for that. So that's the boundary that I have learned to set quite firmly is when to remove myself from a situation and then come back and be like, oh, now let's address it because now there's time, there's headspace that I can really give to make that better. Um, a boundary that I have set since the beginning of my career really is that I would always make time for training. So like I said, I'm an athlete. I've been training since I was like, I want to say about 13, 14. Um, up until the point that I ran my business, I had only ever worked part-time because I had always worked around my training schedule. And I was able to do that and get promoted like almost every year, make it up to a point that I was like head of marketing at a tech startup and still working part-time. So I think a lot of the time people will believe that if they have something that's important to them, it must be almost on the side. But actually, there is a way of making it more prominent and a part of your everyday life. Because I would just go in when I would have job interviews and negotiate and say, actually, I still train. This is really important to me. I'd like to have like 2 days where I start at 1 o'clock so that I can train in the morning, or 2 days where I finish at 3 o'clock so I can get to my training session in the evening. And I would work maybe 3/4 or 2/3 of full-time hours, and then I would still go and train. So for me, that's been like a non-negotiable because as tiring and as hard as training is, it's no, it's no easier than running a business. At least when you have a good coach, it's no easier. But it's something that allows me to separate myself from work. And in doing that, I am then able to really focus when I come back. So it's a different type of working hard. It's still equally like mentally draining as it is physically draining, but because my brain is almost in another place, it really helps me to refocus by the time I get back to my desk. So that has been a boundary, and I benefit from that, like physically, mentally. Um, that's a big deal to me. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm not sure if there's any other like hard boundaries that I set. Those two are big ones. One of them has been more long-standing than the other, but those are probably the two biggest ones that come to mind.
How do you define thriving today? And what mindset shifts or practices help you embrace that definition?
I think thriving is kind of living the life that not just living the life that you dreamed of or working towards it because it takes a while to get there. Um, but I have always felt very strongly about owning my time. And so I'm now in a position where I'm working for myself, where I do own my time and I can say when I start, when I stop, what I do, when I do it. Obviously, some of that is dictated by things like deadlines and all of that. So it's not entirely, like me constructing and owning all of my time. But I largely have a say in what I do every day and how it's done. And that's me working towards the bigger goal of, getting to a point where there are more people working for the business. I can offload more of the responsibilities. I'm able to reclaim more of my time. So I think really that the beauty of it is like going through the process of building the thing. When you get there, that's all fun and games, but it's also I think it can not be like anticlimactic, but it's almost like, oh, you've done all of the work and you're in the position that you always wanted to be in. So I think part of me is enjoying that journey, but also I have that freedom of time that a lot of people don't have. If I, for example, need to go to a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, I can do that. If I needed to, I don't know, if my brother asked me to pick up my nephew from school one day, I could just be like, okay, cool, I'll finish early and I'll do that. So I'm in a position where I'm building the life that I want to live, but I'm also living part of it at the same time. And I think that's a huge part of it. I feel like there were two parts of that question. I've answered one of them. What was the second half of the question?
The second half was just what mindset shifts or practices helped you embrace that definition?
Yeah, I think mindset shift is when people are building a business, a lot of people are very heavily focused on the end result, and then that puts them in a state of, oh God, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Um, but I think the mindset shift is enjoy the journey and acknowledge the wins because you might not be there yet, but you have won in some ways and you're building up towards it. Like I am not by any stretch in the same position at the end of this year that I was in at the end of last year. It's been a very different year. Um, there has been, I am closer to the goal, but I am not yet at the goal. And if you don't take the time to acknowledge the progress or even the setbacks, sometimes you can have years where there might be more setbacks than progress. But if you don't acknowledge those things that have happened, it is very difficult to see, oh, okay, I'm partly living the life that I wanted to live already, even though I'm not quite there yet. And then you constantly that feeling of constantly pushing towards something, but not being able to see that you're already making your way there. Just, in my opinion, fills people with anxiety, and that sucks away the joy of doing the thing that you do every day. So I think a lot of it is a shift of you're making your way there, but you have not arrived, and that's fine. And then also just gratitude, because again, for whatever position you are in now, the you 5 years ago may have dreamed of being here. So I would say, you know, think about who you were 5 years ago and thank yourself for getting to where you are now. And also remember there are other people who are nowhere near the position that you're in and would love to be in your position, and just be grateful for where you are now. Don't despise where you are now because of where you want to be.
I love it. The last question. What made you decide to be featured on Speak Up Queen, and how does it feel knowing that there's a safe space for women to share their stories and inspire others?
I think the main thing is that when people collectively come together and share more, then it's much easier to have an impact. Like you can only do so much as one single person, albeit that depends on the level of influence and that you have, but it's that you have a much easier job of reaching more people when you collectively come together and when you share and when you're honest as well. Like I said, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but the best thing that you can do is be honest so that those that are coming up with you or coming up behind you have a sense of what it actually means and what it really looks like to run a company of their own so that they can be kind of prepared because you're never fully prepared, and that's fine. But I do think that coming together is much more powerful than going at it alone. What is that proverb? I think it's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Something like that. That's kind of like one of my favorite sayings. So the reason that I wanted to come on is because, like I said, I think it's much more powerful to come on to do these things as a collective. Um, and if there's anything that people take away from this, it's, you know, like I said, don't beat yourself up. It's going to be hard. It's okay to not be okay. Do your best to be resilient. Do your best to be disciplined and to turn up consistently. If you can do those things, even on the days, remember you will not always be in the mood. Your mood, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. Your feelings cannot always dictate your behavior. If you were to do that every day, there are some days where you may not get out of bed. You can't afford to do that. Your feelings cannot dictate the way that you behave. You have to be able to be consistent and turn up even when you are not in the mood. You might be in the mood 5 out of the 7 days of the week, but there are 2 days that you're going to have to get up and do what needs to be done when you don't want to. And if you can do that, you will be fine.
Definitely. Well, Jay, thank you so much for sharing your powerful and inspiring story today. Your journey reminds us of the strength and courage it takes to heal, grow, and thrive. To everyone tuning in, remember your voice and story have the power to inspire and create change. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Until next time, Queens, keep speaking up and embracing your power.